dear friends. How's it going? How's it going? Good, good. I'm trusting that you're all doing well and welcome. I did share with you that today we are going to be talking about deceased estates. Deceased estates. Yeah, anyone can become a deceased estate, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And wherever you're watching me from, let me know where you're watching me from in the comments there, and we can talk about the deceased estates today. I want to explore this. I've done a few deals in the real estate space around deceased estate, and I've also just I didn't eventually buy that business, but I almost bought a business around deceased estate. So today I want us to cover that. Let me know in the chat where you're watching me from, and good to having you around. And welcome to the TJ Money Show. Yep. And on this channel here, we talk. We come out live every Tuesday night, and we talk about money issues, where you can get that money, how you can get some deals done. And if you don't know, my name is TJ. Um, I've made a bit of money from real estate, so I really like real estate. But it's not the only thing that I do. I like real estate because it's an asset that works for you without having to do so much work. And if you enjoy doing real estate, I think 9 out of 10 I will always be talking about real estate. But today we are talking about deceased estate, but it doesn't necessarily mean this is for property. I'll give examples for properties, but not so 100% about property per se. What is a deceased estate? So let's define that first, right? Wherever you're watching us now, let me know where you're watching me from. The first thing that I want us to talk about, we've got about 15 to 30 minutes, and as I go along, hit me up with some questions, and then I'll be able to answer those questions. Number one, you and I can become a deceased estate. The definition of deceased estate is that anyone who has breath underneath their nose, if they are gone, they can become a deceased estate. However, there's something that is a little bit funny that can happen in here. And this is all about when a person is owning property, assets, and then they pass away. The property, if held in their personal name, or the business is held in their personal name, this will fall part of a deceased estate. So I don't own anything in my personal name. So if I die, poor me, because there is no deceased anything. Now for you, I want to ask you that question. Do you own anything in your name? A car, a house, your gold chains and your rings and whatever that you own. The day that you drop, all of that becomes part of your estate. So you are now deceased, and this now is a deceased asset. Now I'm reading from a book here. It says to finalize the deceased estate, all assets and liabilities have to be recorded. So there's a process in here that needs to happen. So I die today. Today it's a Monday, and then poof, I am gone. 1 August is a Monday. Someone now needs to record my assets and liabilities, and this is going to take a bit of time in recording all of these things. So they're going to go to Standard Bank, FNB, Citibank, whatever, all the banks that we know of, and then they're going to say, TJ, what does he owe you? There's systems around this that they utilize, yes, and all the liabilities will come in. And out of that, they then want to say, how much of assets does this guy have? Assets is anything that gives you money, right? Now, to finalize the deceased estates, all assets and liabilities have to be recorded. Liabilities have to be settled. And the estate duties, what are estate duties? SARS or the taxman is going to want their money, right? Capital gains tax, Again, SARS is going to ask for some more money. The executor's fees. Some of you have appointed your bank. Back in the days, you don't even remember whether you appointed a bank or not. But the bottom line, some of you have appointed either the bank or someone to be an executor, or you were conned to think that they are doing you a favor by drafting you a will, and automatically they became an executor for you. So now, when you are gone, they are going to get a fee. How much is that? Maybe 1%, maybe 5%. I think the most that I've seen is around about 5% of your estate. So if your assets is worth, let's say 5 million, 5% of that in terms of collecting, recording, and then collecting your liabilities and your assets and winding off the paperwork, they are going to get 5% of that. It's a lot of money, isn't it? Makes you wonder. Right, let me go on. The executor fees needs to be paid. Right? It is not necessary for properties in an estate to be liquidated to cover these costs before the deceased estates can be finalized. And then the beneficiaries can receive their inheritance. Whew! This is a deep one. Let me put this in context. There's lots of people that have died during COVID. And obviously, their estates are being wound off. I don't know of all these. So I don't know between asset and liabilities, when they put their assets and liabilities together and then they record them, I don't know in terms of order, what do they settle first? I would assume that they'll settle the liabilities first. So everyone whom you owe money, they're going to say, hey, I want my money. I'm first in queue. So they're going to get all their money first, right? And then the second person here could be the taxman. The taxman would say, hey, I want my money. And then the executor, well, I'm doing the job. Why would I pay everyone else and not get the job done? And then only after that will they pay the beneficiaries some form of their inheritance. Now, a number of things here that I want to speak to you guys around. And I think this is very important. And it's a sad story to talk about deceased and so on. But I've made some money out of that. So I want to speak to this thing around 2 points. How can you protect this, that it doesn't happen to you? Because remember, this show is all about making money, right? So how can you protect this so that it does not come for you? Because me and you, we're going to die at some point. So which means that we're going to have some estates. Like I said, I don't have this problem because I don't own anything. But maybe for you, you own some things. So you own your property in your own name. And you own maybe, I don't know, your business in your own name. I don't even own my business in my own name. I like nothing. There's nothing that TJ owns. Like, I'm a poor guy, you know. However, so what's going to happen for you if you're to go? It basically means that whatever that you have is going to become part and parcel of your deceased estate. And then your missus or your dude, whoever you are dating or seeing or in love with, the day that you become deceased, everything gets frozen, by the way. So they don't have access to all of that up until this allocation of stuff is done. Now, the executor has so much power now on your estate. And they can sell off some of your assets just to cover the liabilities if they want. Well, you're not there. How are you going to see that? Right? So we have seen, I think, I want to give you guys an example. Not so long ago, I bought a 2-bed, 1-bath that I eventually sold. And basically, it was a deceased estate. I saw it on the market for around about 380,000 on a value. The market value of the property was around about 450. I eventually bought it for around about 180. Right? Of course, I went in and negotiated. It was in a bed space and things like that. But the person who was making the decision to sell didn't like I'm just assuming here, right? Because this was an executor selling. The person who was selling this is not, potentially they're not savvy around money. Their job is to close the transaction. How much money is outstanding on the liabilities, so they're going to cancel that off. Or even worse off, maybe an executor is a brother, a cousin, or an aunt within the family. They have no idea of the value of property. All of a sudden, 500,000 looks like lots of money on a property of 1 million. And because it is 500,000, they're going to jump into it. Now, I did say that I want to speak to this in two ways. And the first way is that how do you cover yourself? Well, don't own anything in your name. That's the bottom line of it. You shouldn't own anything in your name. There are vehicles out there that you can put all of your assets in to safeguard it. Things like companies, things like trusts, and things like that. If you don't know where to get all of those things, just let me know in the comments. Say, TJ, I need help with not owning anything. Simple like that, right? What are you going to say? TJ, I need help with not owning anything. Okay, then I'm going to hook you up with some of the guys that have also helped me. But this is public knowledge that we should all be knowing, especially for the fact that me and you, we run businesses. Remember, this show is about businesses and money. So for the fact that you're running businesses and you've got stuff on your name, that's risky. You should not do that. And we should drive more into the vehicles that are available. Now, let's talk on the other side now. What is the other side? So how do you protect yourself? I've just given you some snippets there on how you can do it. Now, how can you make money out of this, out of deceased estates and things like that? Well, we have seen already that if a deceased estate is running, by the way, you can ask some questions and I'll try to answer them. If I don't know, I'll go in and ask someone else who knows better. But let's jump onto it. How can you make money? How can you make in the deceased estates? So there are attorneys that specialize with deceased estates across the country, everywhere. That's the first thing. Or the banks themselves, they will run these deceased estates, but normally they would also pass them on into some form of firms and so on. So they become the executor of these things. Or maybe your uncle or aunt or whoever it is that will become the executor of this. 9 out of 10, these people that have been put in here, their job is not to look at the value of the assets that you've got. So let me talk about this in the sense that, let's say you own a business, and your business, you own that business in your personal capacity. And now all of a sudden you are gone, and then this business is now being sold. The value of this business is, let's say, 1 million, right? But your liabilities is worth maybe 500,000. If I'm to come up with 600,000 so that the executor can close off the account and wind it off, they are not going to stop and wait and think, oh, is it 1 million? They are going to look at the transaction, and because they are not savvy, they are going to be saying 600. Oh, actually the beneficiaries are going to be making here 100,000. Also, it's good. But in some other cases, they don't even think that far. They just think, are all the liabilities paid for? Yes. And there's some change here. Okay, good. We'll give it to. So now, for you as someone who is always scouting for good opportunities, if you identify where or who is always managing, who's an executor or managing deceased estates, then you want to be able to close them because you don't know what they could be selling. It might be a business or it might be disposing of a property. And for that reason, you can quickly go in and you can give in the offer so that they can close the transaction. A lot of the times they are busy trying to close off these transactions. So it's a file. They want to close that file. They want to move on so that they can get their commissions, right? Of course, yes, a lot of them, there are some of them that will look into this thing from a financial perspective and say, wait a little bit. This business here is actually worth R1 million, so maybe we need to sell it for nothing less of 900. Now, they are thinking beyond just the transaction, and they're also thinking of the value that they can get, and they're now thinking also of their commissions that they can get. But not a lot of them think like that. That's why there's many deceased estates, or in properties especially, that have been sold for next to nothing. Now, how do you get involved in this space? Simple. You figure out who are the deceased estate attorneys in your neighborhood, jump on there and ask and see whether there's any properties in your areas, or even if it's a business, look there and then vet it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you need to vet it now. What do I mean by vetting it? Is it good? Is it a good buy? Right? Because sometimes you just don't want to buy anything, right? You want to buy stuff that's got value. So now you vet it, you analyze it, and then if it's a good deal, it's a good deal. Then you buy. After you've bought, this is where the problem comes through. Because it is a deceased estate, right? The estate needs to wind off. Even though if they sell it to you, the estate needs to wind off. What do I mean by that? Remember, when we started having the conversation, they said that they need to collate all the liabilities and the assets. So for that reason, it's not a fair, I don't want to say it's not a fair exchange. It's not a quick exchange. So it's not like you are going to go to the bank and get your approval and boom, they will give you the property. It's not like that, no. They are going to wait for everything to finish off. Yes. And then after that, they'll then say, okay, great. The estate is now finished and then now it's winding off. Only then can you take registration. Now the High Court gets involved, the deceased attorneys gets involved, and you know these guys, they take their baby time. And they are not even digitally connected. Everything is paper-based. That file might get lost, or they might miss it, or there's someone else who's supposed to issue a certain letter is not there, they've got COVID, or maybe they went to Durban because their wife is getting pregnant and whatnot and what, and their dog and whatnot and what. The bottom line is that you can have delays and delays and delays. Not so long ago, I don't want to say not so long ago, 3 years ago, I bought a deceased property, and I didn't realize that the husband had died first, and the wife, I bought the property from the wife, so the husband died first, and then they bought the property from the deceased estate of the wife. So guess what? When their husband died, they didn't do a final transfer into the wife's name. So now, all of a sudden, it was a double deceased. Yep. So what basically happened was that I needed to wait for 2 deceased estates to close. And that took me a good 4 years. Yep, 4 years for the property to be sold and to be put in my name. So why am I telling you this? I've never experienced, and I've checked in my community to see with guys who have bought a property that is under deceased or a business, and it has moved swiftly. So in other words, you pay the money today, and then tomorrow you already have ownership. The beauty about it, though, is you may have a possibility of moving in early. So you can take control of the business much early. You can take control of the property much early. And thus, you can be able to make some money, obviously, after putting in all of your guarantees, whether you're buying a cash or the bond. So you're putting in all your guarantees in place. Does it make sense what I'm talking about? So, how do you protect yourself not to be a deceased estate? We've covered that. And then the second part is how can you make some money? I've given you some advice, not some advice, but some tips in terms of how you can work around it. So I'm going to jump into the comments or to the questions and see whether there's anyone who's given us some questions. Thanks, TJ, for such an informative thingy around deceased estate. Thanks, TJ, for the information. Thanks, TJ, for the information. Watching from Bella Bella, awesome stuff. Hey, how's it going, TJ? Okay. How does one find or locate the beneficiaries of an unclaimed deceased estate? Oh, wow. I need an attorney on that one, brother. So basically what you're saying here, there is beneficiaries that were allocated to the deceased estate. So for instance, I'm gone. So my beneficiaries were my kids and nobody claimed it. So my kids have gone AWOL. They're not there. So how do you find it? I would think on top of my head, if you're working with a good attorney, there is guys that do what is called tracing. And tracing is basically, when you're running away from the banks and so on, and they are looking for money from you, they can deploy. There's a department that's called tracing, and these guys basically are private investigators. They will find you. Yeah, you might duck and dive today, but they'll find you. Same applies here, Choke. So you can actually reach out to these tracings guys. The last I know of anyone who does tracing, they were charging around about between 500 to 1,000 rand to do tracing per case. But that was for bulk, if you're doing it in bulk. But that's the last that I know around that. But good question. Thanks a lot. So the beneficiaries could have moved to overseas and things like that. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm hoping that this has been of good information to you. If you like this content, let me know. Hit me up in the comments. Thanks for the comments. And over and above that, don't forget to subscribe and share the information. Share it on your page wherever you are. And let's spread the love of money. Making money. So you see how you can make money here, right? Good. I'm glad that you have joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll check you out again on the next video.